Hello everyone, this is the Red Riot Robot coming to you with the first installment of First Impression Reviews. Our first game in this series is God of War Ragnarok. I should give a little bit of, what my thoughts are on the first one. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was the best thing ever like a lot of other people did. I thought there were a few narrative issues, but overall I thought it was a very good game. So we'll get into God of War Ragnarok. I'm going to start with the good, and in the good category is the gameplay and the RPG mechanics have been streamlined a lot, to the point this game doesn't really need to be an RPG anymore. And I think that's good, because I think the RPG mechanics of the first game were the weakest part of it. There still is some of that RPG stuff, but it's not as integral. Like, you don't have to have 150 runic to be able to do some special stuff with one of your moves. The other big change I would say is they kind of nerfed the stun in this game, because it's a lot harder to build up after you do a single stun attack on an enemy. And also, the stun attacks have sort of been replaced with one of the super moves. They've made a bunch of changes, but I think a lot of them are for the better. I much prefer this game's gameplay, especially when it comes with the new weapon they introduce, and that's the Drop Near Spear. I love this weapon. It's basically if you had a good version of Lucifer from Devil May Cry 4. I'm sure that's gonna upset some people. Lucifer was a busted weapon, but I never liked using it. This actually feels good to use. I really, really love using it. It's probably my favorite weapon they've ever made, and it's a shame it probably will die with this game. After that, we have... they made the fast travel a lot better. I say better, you get it a lot earlier, and you don't have to do as much backtracking in this game, which is, thank God. That was one of my biggest issues with the first game, and that's about it. I guess I should say, I did play this on PC. As far as a PC port, it's mostly good. I had very few problems, no major bugs. I did have a crash in a specific spot in Vanaheim, and it was something that I could actually repeat. Now, this was not a game-breaking crash, like it didn't cause me any issues, because all I'd have to do is launch the game again, and I could cross that area. But for whatever reason, if you spend a lot of time in the river delta in Vanaheim, and then you try to go to Freyr's camp, you will crash consistently. But otherwise, as far as a PC port, it's really good. Runs great, looks great, they did a good job. Hopefully they'll fix that one crash. And finally, I just kind of want to get to the good of the storytelling. I really like the story between Kratos and Atreus. And it's a bit of a story about father trying to prepare his son to go out on his own and worried about his son and that kind of thing. And a lot of that's handled well. It's also about defying fate itself, what you're meant to do. If you have to follow fate, what if you're doing what fate already says? Are you slave to fate, or are you doing it because you had to? And stuff like that, and I think it's a very interesting story in that aspect. This has helped a lot with the main villain, Odin, who is obsessed with prophecies. Odin is sort of what really makes me like this game. I really, really love Odin. And I also love Heimdall, who's kind of a dickhead. He reminds me of Hermes from God of War 3, and love his boss fight. But Odin is kind of what makes this game for me as far as the narrative, because he's one of the most conniving characters we've ever had. I can't think of another game where we've had a antagonist who lies so consistently and comes off as genuine, and I think they did a fantastic job with him. But yeah, those are my overall, those are the good things about this game. I do want to talk about some issues I do have, mostly with the narrative, because I do have problems with the narrative. So the biggest problem I have with this narrative is that while the main plot with Kratos and Atreus is done very well, there are 4 or 5 subplots that I don't feel had enough time in the game to get the proper reaction the developers wanted. The first one, and I'm going to be going into spoilers here, so if you want to play God of War Ragnarok without spoilers, stop here and go play it. if you just want to hear my thoughts, continue. The first one I want to talk about is Brock and Sindri. I actually kind of like this one, but I do feel like we should have had one more outing with Sindri before Brock dies, because there's a huge kind of thing where Sindri, he had brought back Brock. That's a hard sentence to say. But Brock was missing part of his soul, and so if Brock ever died, he wouldn't be able to go to the equivalent of heaven. His soul would just disappear, and Brock dies. And so it's a very sad thing, especially for Sindri. But it feels like it was missing, like, something. Like, we needed one more little outing with Sindri after Brock discovers that he had been resurrected, just to kind of get a little bit. And now that's probably the best of the subplots. The others, I feel, definitely just had zero time put to them. The Thor family. Thor has his wife Sif and a daughter Thrud. And the subplot here is that Thor kind of wants to be a better father for Thrud. He doesn't want to be like his father anymore, who used to beat him. And so it's kind of about stopping the cycle of abusive violence in a family. And I'm not against it, but the game doesn't really do a lot to convince you that Thor's changed. You got like a couple little conversations. It's almost like an epiphany, but you have a couple of conversations with him, and then you beat his ass in the finale, and he's like, hey, I will stand up to my dad. And then his dad's like, oh, I'll kill you. And that's kind of the end of it. I feel like there should have been a bit more. I would have liked to see more direct interactions between him and Thrud, because it really was kind of weak, in my opinion. There's the final giant that's not Atreus. That is, I'm gonna hope I get this, Angrboda. And Angrboda is there, and she's putting souls in animals, I think, in the background. And she's like having her own adventure, and you don't really know what she's doing after you have your little adventure with her, with Atreus. And I was like, oh, okay, she's just kind of there occasionally now. I don't know if there was more that was going to be around where Atreus was supposed to help her or something, but I feel like we missed out on like an entire adventure she had. We'll never know, because it's just not there. And the final, to me the worst, is everything surrounding Freya's brother Freyr. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I do not care about this man. They sort of give Freya and Freyr this one cutscene where they make up, but that's like the first cutscene where, it's the second cutscene where Freya and Freyr are together, and they've finally made up after some long stuff. And then Freyr gets kidnapped, and you save him, and then he kind of does nothing until the finale, where he sacrifices himself to save everybody else. And I could care less. This guy had so little development. I did not care for him. I never liked him. I don't think he's the worst character in the game. That goes to Ratatoskr. I hate Ratatoskr so much. Every like mission brief from Ratatoskr is 3 times as long as it should be. It's that what I call Borderlands humor, where they make a joke and extend the setup of the joke. The punchline is that the setup never ends, and it sucks. I hate Ratatoskr. But back onto the subplots. I'm curious if part of this is due to the gimmick of these new God of War games being that the camera never cuts. It always follows Kratos or Atreus. It never cuts. Because it feels like if you could have done that, you could have used that to expand these other plots. And I guess some people will say, well, the other God of War games didn't suffer from this and were a lot simpler, so who cares? But the thing is, this game is aiming to do these subplots. They wanted to do these, but they're not doing almost any of them enough justice. So, I don't know. I feel like in the next game, they need to stop doing this gimmick. I think it's run its course. And to me, while I like this game a little bit more than the first one, I think the gimmick that they used was done a lot better in the first, well, I say the 2018 God of War, then Ragnarok. I'm genuinely kind of curious where we're going to go from here with this, because by the end of this, again, spoilers, it looks like Atreus is looking for more giants who have survived, and I don't know if Kratos is planning to go spread peace, possibly through war, or if he's just going to stay in the Norse area. I don't know. I can't imagine them sticking just to Atreus, because Kratos still has a very iconic look. That pure white skin with the little red line going all over it is so iconic, and Atreus, I don't care how well they try to design him, they will never beat that design. Kratos is very well designed, even from the start. But overall, my feelings on this are, it's a very good game. If you already loved the 2018 God of War, you probably already have this. If you are kind of mixed on the 2018 game, maybe wait for a little bit of sell. Go for like $40. Overall, I liked this. I'm glad I played it. I do have those issues with the subplot, but overall I did have a good time. Alright, that's the end of this first installment of First Impression Reviews. This is going to be something I try to do every so often, to review games and sort of fill out the empty space throughout the month, so my channel isn't dead for 1 month at a time. I should be able to put these out relatively quickly after I finish a game. It's just going to be dependent on me finishing games. If you've watched this far, thank you so much. This is the Red Riot Robot, signing out.